As of today, one of the most popular videos on my channel is one from last year. I believe I uploaded it in May, but it's about all the Diptyque perfumes that are in my collection. And I thought that it was time to do a different version of that video because over the course of the past year, I have acquired and reviewed and sold a whole bunch of Diptyque fragrances. They opened a Diptyque boutique in Toronto where I can visit family, and so I'm able to pop into the boutique every now and then. I hadn't gone into the boutique when it first opened, and I avoided it for a little while, but the past few times that I've been there, I've enjoyed the experience I've had in there. I can see why my video last year was so popular. There is a disconnect between the Diptyque perfume boutique and the perfume counter that is in department stores, at least in Canada, and at least from my experience. I don't begrudge any of the sales associates, but I think that Diptyque doesn't do the same sort of training in department stores that they do in their boutiques. So there's a different set of perfumes that are offered at the counters, and when you enter a boutique, they offer a lot more merchandise than is available at the counters. If you go online, you can get a lot of that same merchandise that's in the boutiques, but when you go into a boutique, you're able to get personalized customer service and suggestions, and the shopping experience is definitely richer than what you would get online. When you go to the counter and you ask about some of the scents that they might have at the boutique, from my experience, the people at the counter have no idea what you're talking about. So if you ask about what's the first Diptyque perfume, or what's one that has a lot of incense, like, they will not be able to help you. They probably, in most cases, haven't even heard of some of the exclusives that are just in the shop. And that is really a poor shopping experience. When I was new to the brand, I would ask about some of these exclusive perfumes at the counter, and people kind of looked at me like, what are you talking about? We don't have that here. I knew that I was talking about a Diptyque product because I had seen the reviews and read the reviews, and there were scents that I was really curious about, but the people at the counter had no idea what I was talking about. So if you want a better shopping experience, really the boutique is the place to go. But I think people turn to reviews and videos because they're shopping online and they're not able to get to a boutique. And in a way, it's good that the boutique is offering an experience that you can't get anywhere else. You want your boutiques to be special because it gives people a reason to visit. If they're getting exactly the same thing that they would get at a counter, there's no reason to go to a boutique. A lot of times at the counter that's in a department store, you're going to buy 5 other things in the store. So there's a good reason to visit that particular counter. You might already have a relationship with a sales associate from another department who's then also selling you a candle and perfume and whatever else. But when you go into a boutique, there's just so much more available. And a lot of the perfumes that are in the boutique are a little bit more challenging and more complex than the ones that are available at the counter. I think the counter has a lot of the best sellers, and the boutiques have things that are just a little bit more catered to a niche audience. And I think Diptyque, for whatever reason, is still one of the brands that has grown really big, but still offers kind of a niche experience and niche product, in that there's a sense of mystery around what you're getting and where you're getting it. And they've discontinued some perfumes and brought them out in different packaging, so that helps elevate certain scents. I mean, I don't know how they're doing it, but I really love the packaging. And that's kind of what drew me to collect Diptyque bottles and keep my empty bottles, because I just think they're so beautiful. They're like works of art. But I do think that my journey with the brand is coming to an end because I've kind of smelled the things that I really wanted to smell, and I've kept the things that I really wanted to keep. I don't really have a curiosity for any of the other scents right now. I will continue to drop into the boutique and see what's new and see what's interesting, because I definitely haven't smelled everything. I definitely haven't smelled everything. So I will continue to drop into the boutique and experience what they have, but I'm not actively pursuing smelling the scents and acquiring the bottles as much as I was maybe even 6 months ago. And just to give you a sense of what I'm talking about, this is my empty bottle of L'Eau Capitale, and all the bottles have beautiful artwork on them, which kind of makes them collectible, makes you want to hold on to them and keep them and have every scent you could get, because it's like you're holding a piece of artwork in your hand, even if there's no perfume in the bottle. So that is really kind of a selling point for the brand, and what makes the brand so Instagram worthy and photography worthy. And it continues to be kind of that aesthetic that maybe consumers of all ages are looking for. And the other thing I want to say is I thought that I would have a beautiful display of my Diptyque bottles, but I still don't keep bottles out, so that has not happened, and maybe that's partly why I'm not really interested in acquiring more Diptyque perfumes right now. I'll back up a little bit to talk about the history of the brand. Diptyque started off as a store that sold furniture and all kinds of home accessories. In 1961, it was opened by 3 friends, and then later in the 70s, they started making their own perfume. Not the friends, but they commissioned other perfumes to be made. And really, that's how their perfume brand started. People were coming into the store and really enjoyed the aesthetic of the store because it was quite eclectic. The people that started the store would travel a lot, so they would collect things on their travels and bring them back to sell in the store. It kind of reminds me of the bric-a-brac kind of nature of an Anthropologie store or Urban Outfitters. Maybe Anthropologie, because that's a little bit more expensive and a little bit more elevated, and even their clothes are kind of, sourced from Peru and India and different places, and they claim to have a lot of things that are handmade. So Diptyque kind of had that same aesthetic where, they had things from Europe and other places in the world, and you could get kind of everything in one little store, and it was hard to find those things in other places. So they came out with their own perfumes, and I was really interested in smelling some of their earlier perfumes. So I mentioned earlier that I have gotten some bottles and I've decluttered them from my collection just as quickly. One of the ones that I got was the 3rd scent that they introduced, and that was Trois. And they called it Trois because it was the 3rd scent, and it came out in 1975. Trois has a lot of hype on the internet as being a very frankincense forward perfume. It's super resinous, super piney. To me, it really smelled like walking in a pine forest in the wintertime. I thought it would make a great fall or spring perfume. It had cedar in it. It had this really dry woodsiness. But for me, I thought that the longevity was very poor, and I just never felt like wearing it. I never felt like I wanted to smell like I had been walking in a pine forest. To me, it lacked depth and it lacked complexity. It didn't have any of the sweetness or any animalic facets that you do smell when you go out in nature for real. So I didn't think that it was worth it to keep in my collection. And I was actually able to sell it relatively easily because, again, it's a scent that's only available at the boutique. So for some people, it's a little bit harder to come by because they're not going to visit a boutique and maybe they don't want to order online. Also, they were buying a partial bottle, so the cost was automatically better than it would have been if they had been buying a full brand new bottle at the boutique. So that was Trois. It wasn't for me. I can see why people love it, but as someone that lives in an area or a part of the world where there are lots of pine forests and I go on hikes quite regularly, I'm out in nature a lot, I just didn't connect with the scent as much as I thought I would. I had smelled it in store, so it wasn't a complete blind buy, but sometimes in store things kind of smell really great because you're just excited to be there, and then when you get the thing at home and you spray it in your own environment, you maybe don't get the same experience that you would have otherwise. So that was Trois. The other perfume that is a Diptyque store exclusive is Benjoin Boheme. This is a perfume that has been repackaged. I haven't smelled the earlier version. I had the opportunity to buy it maybe early last year and I passed on that because I hadn't smelled it. But when I was in the store in the fall, I was able to get a sample of it and I really enjoyed my sample. So I did go ahead and buy a new bottle. And again, this was one that had very poor performance. Benjoin Boheme is a benzoin forward perfume. It's powdery, it's resiny, it's vanillic, it smells beautiful, but again, I really couldn't smell it on myself or in the air when I sprayed it. The day that I got the bottle of perfume, I sprayed it, and then later I couldn't smell anything, so I sprayed some more and I sprayed some more. And by the time I got to lunchtime, I must have sprayed it at least 10 times. And then I went to sit down at lunch with someone and I almost felt apologetic, like I was a little bit self-conscious, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, can you smell my perfume? Like, I sprayed a lot. And they were like, no, I can't smell anything. And so I realized that it wasn't just me that couldn't smell anything. Nobody could smell anything because this was really just a skin scent. And they did put their nose up to my wrist and they could smell it on my arm, but from arm's length away, nobody could smell anything, and I had sprayed so much of it. So although the bottle was beautiful and I really was partly collecting the perfumes for the bottles, I just didn't want to keep something that I knew I wasn't going to be able to smell, because the whole point of perfume is to smell it, not just for the initial smell when you spray it, but also, you know, an hour into the wear of the perfume, you should be able to smell it on your skin. And it wasn't a great sign that I couldn't smell it and nobody else around me could smell it either. Sometimes I have had the experience where I can't smell the perfume, but everybody around me can smell it. That has happened to me before, but this was not the case here because nobody could smell it. So it wasn't for me. I decluttered my bottle. I did smell some of the other exclusive perfumes from the Diptyque boutique because I got some samples with purchases that I made. One was Eau Body, which is really a neroli forward perfume, and I have enough neroli perfumes in my collection, so I didn't get that one. The other one was Eau Rila, which is a fruity leather perfume, very much in the style of Tom Ford Tom Ford, what's it called? Ombre leather, a lot like that. And I didn't really want it. I think it's well done. It's nicely blended. It's soft. It's subtle in the way that a lot of Diptyque perfumes are. It's a little bit more feminine leaning than some of the Tom Ford leather perfumes, but that's not really my aesthetic anyways, so I didn't get that one either, and I gave my travel spray away to a friend that would want to wear it. I also reviewed Fleur de Peau, and I did a comparison between Fleur de Peau and Glossier You, because Fleur de Peau to me was a very ambrette forward perfume. It really has a fresh, clean, showery, warm skin kind of smell that I love, but it was so similar to Glossier You that it's another one that I did not keep in my collection, and it seems to be pretty popular and well loved. I think if you're looking for a Fleur de Peau type perfume, but you're maybe on a budget, definitely smell Glossier You instead and see if that satisfies what you're looking for in a perfume, because to my nose they are very similar, not the same but similar. I will also say that I think that Glossier You has better performance and is a stronger formula, whereas Fleur de Peau seems to be a little bit weaker to me. That was just another one that I didn't keep in my collection, and I also no longer have Glossier You, but I have other perfumes in my collection that have that ambrette note in them and that are very powdery, very iris forward, so I didn't feel like I had to keep that one. The ones that I did keep, we'll talk about now. Oh, maybe let's talk about my empty bottles that I have so far. I've already talked about Eau Capitale, and this is an eau de parfum. I do love this. It's a citrusy rose patchouli. I found it to be super easy to wear and really beautiful. I still have the hair mist of this, and if you're wondering why I finished a whole bottle of it already, I actually only bought a partial bottle. I actually got it in a swap and it just had a little bit left, and that was enough for me. I enjoyed it, and then I was able to move on from it, and I still got to keep the beautiful bottle for my collection, and there's a few sprays left in here, so I can still spray and wear it if I feel like I really want to. Of course, I can open the bottle cap and smell it, and I can still smell the perfume in there. The other ones that I still have are Dosan. So again, this is an empty bottle that I finished, and beautiful bottle. I kept the bottle. This is an eau de toilette. I think they have this in eau de parfum also. They've also come out with a limited edition collection this past year that was super pretty. This is a white flower coconut perfume. It's very, very summery, beachy, beautiful, very easy to wear. I just have so many with the same scent profile, and some that I like a little bit better, so I didn't feel like I was gonna replace this. If I had to put another tuberose perfume back into my collection, I would probably go with Carnal Flower, but for right now this is not gonna get replaced. And in general, I don't really go and rebuy perfumes that I finished. I just feel like there's lots of good perfume out there that I would want to get something different probably. So that was Dosan. Like it, didn't love it, will not rebuy it. The last one is Philosykos, and again, this is an empty. I think in my video last year I said that I was going to replace this bottle because I do love the scent profile. I love fig. I love how this is dry and woodsy in the dry down. And I have a really strong scent memory from this perfume because it just reminds me of my family cottage, and the deck at that cottage smell is made out of cedar. Actually, a lot of the furniture, a lot of the cottage, the building itself is made out of cedar. The deck was recently replaced, and when you walked outside, the dew would be evaporating from the deck, and because it was wet, you could smell the cedar a little bit more strongly, and that scent of cedar is what is in Philosykos. So I love Philosykos. I enjoy it for so many reasons. I said last year that I would replace this bottle. I just haven't replaced it yet, and honestly, I haven't missed it enough to replace it. I haven't thought about Philosykos. I never wake up and think, oh, I need to wear Philosykos today, or I need to smell this. I love it. Maybe I'll replace it, but I just have not yet. This is a beautiful perfume, but there's lots of beautiful perfume out there. So those are the three perfumes that I finished, the Diptyque perfumes that I finished. There's 3 that are still in my collection. The first is Eau Lente. This is one that I bought from the Diptyque boutique, and the reason I love Eau Lente so much is that it's got a fresh, zingy, zesty, anisic opening that reminds me of herbs. It reminds me of anise. It's a little bit sweet. It has vanilla in it, and the dry down has opopanax, which in and of itself smells almost like cinnamon. I actually think cinnamon is one of the notes in this as well. So we've got, you know, an incense without any smokiness. We've got vanilla, we've got cinnamon, we've got lots of anise, lots of really beautiful ingredients to make a perfume that reminds me a lot of grape water. And I remember when I smelled this, I was looking for a grape water like perfume, and then I found it. I found it. How often does that happen, that you walk into a store and find exactly what you're looking for? That never happens. But it did happen this time. So I still have Eau Lente in my collection, and I like it. I like it so much. This has complexity, so it changes throughout the day. That opopanax and vanilla just warms up on my skin, and I get whiffs of it, especially if I wear it on parts of my body that are going to heat up. So like the inside of my elbow or even the back of my neck. I find that I get that warm ambery dry down, even though the perfume opens as fresh and spicy. So it's got a good amount of contrast, it's got a good amount of balance, it has great lasting power. I can smell it for most of the day, and really a nice, unusual, well done perfume. I will say that this is unusual, and lots of people will find that it's too spicy. Maybe it's too much cinnamon, too much heat, but also too much freshness. If you don't understand what's going on here, you might have a hard time with it. But still, this is my favorite Diptyque perfume, and maybe one of my favorite perfumes that I discovered last year. So that's Eau Lente. The other one that I still have in my collection is 34 Boulevard St. Germaine. This was the perfume that was meant to replicate the scent of the Diptyque stores. So you get a little bit of the blackberry from their base candle. You get a woodiness from all the wooden furniture that they have there. And again, this is a scent that has good lasting power, but is also complex enough that it changes. Now they've brought this out in lots of different versions. They've got a low version and they have an EDP. I think I have the EDT, I can't remember. Lots of different versions of this, and really one of my favorite Diptyques still because of the woodiness of it and that blackberry that you get in the opening. There's also rose in here. There's a lot going on in this perfume, and it gives you something different every time that you wear it, but it is just easy to wear and interesting to wear. Maybe leans a little bit masculine from all the ones I've talked about. This is definitely the most masculine one, but I still love it. I especially love the dry down of it. There's something very addictive about the blend of woods that they've used. Like there is cedar, there's sandalwood, and there's warmth in there too, alongside some dryness. So that is 34 from the brand. The last Diptyque perfume that I still have in my collection is Tempo. And Tempo is maybe a little bit more masculine leaning. It is definitely a patchouli forward perfume. So if you're looking for a patchouli perfume, check Tempo out. You might like it. It is a warm, snuggly, cozy kind of patchouli, but still done in a way that's very dry. There's a mate note in here, as opposed to there being a chocolate or cocoa like there is in some other patchouli perfumes. I think there's cardamom, maybe a little bit of coffee too. It's done really well. I would say that maybe it's not my favorite patchouli because I think I still love the Borneo by Serge Lutens. and I might one day add that back into my collection. I love the color of this juice, and I again love the aesthetic and art that's on these bottles. I just think they're so pretty and so easy to add something to your decor. So I will be hanging on to this one. I think that Tempo is better worn in the spring or the fall. It really lends itself to cooler weather and is maybe not as wearable, for me at least, in the summertime. I wouldn't want to wear this in the high heat because it just feels like it's a little too cuddly and warm. And not that it is a gourmand by any stretch, it just feels like it's a little bit like a blanket, like a cashmere, like a soft, thin cashmere blanket. That's how I would describe the texture and feel of the patchouli that's in here. I love it. I highly recommend it. I bought this bottle in the spring. Again, I did buy it used. I didn't buy this one new. And shortly after that, it started getting a little bit warm. So I haven't been able to wear this as much as I would like to, but I will pull it out again in September when the leaves start to change color and there's a little bit of crispness in the air. I think that Tempo works well in that sort of environment. And I think all patchoulis kind of lend themselves to that environment, especially if you have a warmer patchouli that's done really well. So that's Tempo. Beautiful if you can check it out. And this one, as well as the 34, are available at Diptyque counters, so you don't have to go to a boutique to smell them, whereas Eau Lente is only available at the boutiques or online. So if you want to smell it, you gotta go into the boutique. I think that for a while, at least for their American customers, they were having a deal where if you bought a bottle, they would send you a sample and you could spray from the sample. If you decided that you didn't like the perfume in the sample, you could just send back your bottle. And that seemed like a pretty good deal. They don't have that in Canada, unfortunately, but they are opening lots of boutiques. There's 2 boutiques in Toronto. I believe they're opening a boutique in Vancouver. I haven't been kept up to date with the Diptyque news, but I heard that they are opening a boutique on the West Coast as well. Maybe more will follow. But yeah, Eau Lente is still my favorite. I got the suggestion to check out Opsis because that's a powdery frankincense perfume, so I will do that. But other than that, I'm not really intrigued by anything else from the brand. You know, I'm keeping these bottles in my collection, definitely keeping my empties. Maybe I'll figure out a way to display them at some point in the future. But that's it for me. Let me know what you think of the brand. Let me know what Diptyque bottles are in your collection. And if there are ones that you think I should smell based on what I've said about the ones that I've gotten and moved on from or kept around, let me know. I love hearing suggestions. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.